Let's welcome to the studio my guest, Allison London Brown, here at LSI 2022. Allison, thanks for coming by.
Thanks, Ben. It's great to be here.
Allison, your company Luminelle
Yes.
is making some incredible advancements. Tell us more.
Sure. So we have a novel approach, and everybody says that, right? Novel approach. But really, we're going after some major solutions to problems that are happening today and have been happening, unfortunately, for the last 20 years in women's health. So we have a patented endoscopic platform. Our focus is in uterine and urological health. And our mission is really to provide visualization and deliver a solution using visualization to procedures. So both diagnostic and operative procedures. And what we find more and more is that just seeing is all that physicians need to make a significant difference. I think really what is different for us is that we are focusing on moving that point of care earlier in the treatment pathway, trying to do these things in the doctor's office versus in a hospital. So that's our foundational piece. What's really exciting for us is that we are able to accurately visualize and adequately sample tissue to determine uterine cancer the first time that a woman goes in for a diagnosis.
It seems like the way your product is designed, once they get used to the base product, it's just changing out a sheath.
It is.
And that
Absolutely.
becomes much more functional. So
Right.
That sounds like a great design feature.
Yeah, absolutely. So we tried to think about, is it like the Swiss Army knife or the KitchenAid mixer? It's kind of, it's kind of like that, right? You're buying a base unit, and then we have this different variety of sheaths that are kind of personalized for the physician. So we have rigid sheaths, we have flexible sheaths, we have diagnostics, and then the new biopsy that we'll be launching later this year. So, it's really about what are they trying to treat and how they would like to treat it, and just giving them the tools that they need to be able to do that very inexpensively.
Really, I think one of the things that sort of I was thinking about is how often you've stopped that terrible cycle of either not enough tissue or not the right location of the tissue, and having that repeat come back and visit. Have you got any information about how that part of the standard of care has changed?
Sure. So right now, if you talk to pathologists, about 60% of the samples they get are not enough. And then women don't come back. And so we're seeing that dropout rate, which is leading to things like, while uterine cancer is the fourth largest cancer among women, it's the seventh leading cause of death. Mortality rate of 20%, and Black and brown people are just, my family's Puerto Rican. I've had uterine cancer in my family, and our rates are increasing double digit every year.
What markets are you in now? Where have you already had some traction?
Yeah, we've had traction primarily east of the Mississippi. So we are a southern company, and I love my Northeast friends, but we do spend actually a lot of time in Philly, in the Jersey area. We're out of Raleigh, North Carolina, so we also have some local folk that are involved. But we really have 4 different main verticals that we look at. We're looking at gynecology, urogynecology, so those are more sophisticated gynecological surgeons, urologists who are worried about overactive bladder and SUI, and then infertility. So one of our big customers is in New Orleans, and really doing a lot of great work to help women with fertility issues.
What makes what makes it a big customer?
So on average, so we're a hysteroscopy. I guess I should say that. We're an endoscopy platform. And so our foundational product is really around visualization, but we're much more than that. So our whole goal is to provide visualization to procedures that are either diagnostic or operative in nature. And so we're focused not just on that platform of vision, but also what you can do with that. And so a big customer for us is there's about 8.5 million hysteroscopies every year, 6 million cystoscopies. And we're really focused on trying to move as much of that into the office setting as possible. So, if people are doing 20 to 30 a month, that's a nice customer size.
Wow,
us.
and it seems like that's a big plus for the operating physician.
Yes.
Because you don't have all the you don't just walk in and, hey, I need spot at 8:00 on Tuesday.
Right.
You get into an office setting, you've got much more control of your day.
Yes.
Seems like it's a big advantage for them.
It's a great advantage. And I think, I hate to bring up the C word that everybody talked about, but COVID, we learned a lot in that because physicians were blocked from the ORs in many cases. So uterine cancer became an elective procedure. And as a woman, it's International Women History Month and all of that. So I think, we have to be really more proactive in our healthcare. And I think women generally are becoming more proactive. But when the system is blocking you, it's really difficult. And so uterine cancer is one of those things we've really focused on. Some of the, kind of horrific facts are that the way to detect cancer today is a very simple sampling tool. So all you need to do is to go in with visualization, see what might be a potential cancerous lesion or area. You take a sample, you bring back out the scope and the sample, and you send it off to pathology. Unfortunately, over 70% of biopsies today are done blind. So they are going in with a scope, they're looking and seeing the lesion or the suspicious tissue, as we say, and then they're going back in with a small straw-like device, but blind. And not only are they doing that, they're not getting a sufficient amount of tissue. So sometimes you see pathologists saying, we just don't have enough tissue here, right? And so that's leading to a mortality rate of 20% of these women because they're not being diagnosed soon enough. And uterine cancer is one of those more, not necessarily aggressive, but it metastasizes very quickly. And so it can spread to the colon, to other areas of your body. And, it's kind of a horrific thing that we just can't get there soon enough. So we have a new device that allows physicians to do the technique they want to do, this easy, no anesthesia, 5-minute technique with visualization in their office. And it's accurate and adequate every single time. So as you can tell, I'm very passionate about that, very excited about what we're trying to do.
Yeah, when I first started working in, sort of committed myself to healthcare, one of the first companies I worked with was looking at colon cancer.
Okay.
And it's, identify it, you remove the polyp, you're done.
Yeah.
Find it, you're done. And
Right.
I think you're bringing that to one of these really critical women's health areas. I totally think been ignored. I was going to ask you, when you began to look at this, what was the standard of care? Blind straw, that's it?
No, so the standard of care, actually, when you read the literature, the standard of care is what's called a directed biopsy or a guided biopsy or a biopsy under visualization. In fact, reimbursement in 2017 went up 575%. Have you ever heard of that in women's health?
Ever.
I mean, I know
Ever.
we get the short end sometimes with reimbursement, but it went up 575% in the office. And yet physicians still are leaving money on the table because they are so comfortable with this technique and uncomfortable with the two-handed approach of an instrument and a scope. So again, we're just trying to make that so simple that they can do all the things that they're actually doing the standard of care. They're meeting the standard of care for their patients. Because if you get a bad or a false negative, let's say, or the pathologist says you don't have enough tissue, then the physician has the hard answer of going back, or the hard decision of going back to the patient and saying, I need you to come back in.
Yes.
We're going to have to put you under. And now it's a D&C. So you're talking about a major stripping of the uterus. It sounds all very barbaric, doesn't it, Ben?
It does.
I mean, like
It does.
we're in 2022 and
Exactly.
we're still working with straws. I mean,
Exactly.
Come on, right?
I was talking earlier over lunch, had a very small ablation company, and it was sort of stunning to see how the thought of applying it to the women's health space sort of eluded everyone. And if you looked at what was going on, it was really kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
This was like, oh my gosh, you're the person who brings fire,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
It was that big of an advancement, and yet these have just remained on the table. So I'm super excited about the advancement of femtech, and especially in an area like this where we've got technology from other adjacencies. Let's bring it in and apply it. And,
Right.
and really, you can really move the needle.
Absolutely. Well, no pun intended, we're actually trying to replace the needle, right? So not only do we have an indication for uterine, we also have a cystoscopy indication. And so we can do bladder cancer biopsies. We can deliver drugs. So we regularly see treatment using our scope as an enabler for Botox for overactive bladder. We're looking at SUI. We're looking at male BPH issues and how do you reduce the symptoms of BPH. And really interestingly, when we went to get our 510K for our biopsy device, the FDA gave us 2 more indications in rectal and anal cancer.
Okay, let's unpack that, because you said that your company, you're in the growth stage, you're
Yep.
really just drilling into commercialization.
Yep.
You said you've got 4 approved or FDA approved products.
Correct.
Tell me what those are.
So we have the base system. So the Luminelle system, our current system is a reusable scope with a whole line of disposable sheaths. So we have 2 operative sheaths with a 5 French channel. And all that means is that it allows physicians to do the operations they want to do. We also have a diagnostic sheath that is under 3 millimeters in diameter. So we're talking, less than a pencil. And then the biopsy sheath, which we'll launch later this year. Next year, we will launch a single-use platform using the same visualization and our technology that we have today. We have a proprietary algorithm that autofocuses and auto-adjusts the light. So it's really simple. So that'll be the single-use version. And then later next year, we'll come out with Versa, which is our portable version. And I am a military spouse, so I have near and dear to my heart some of the work that needs to be done in the field. So, and maybe it's not necessarily hysteroscopy, but it's certainly something that needs to be done for wartime situations.
Is that something you can talk about?
Sure. I would say, again, we are very much focused in women's health, but we have been approached by the DoD and people who work with the DoD to really talk about how can our platform be used in other indications. So that wouldn't be something necessarily we are commercializing, but it's everything from, it's considered non-laparoscopic techniques. So when you have to remove a bullet, or you need to go down the trachea, or you need to do a tracheotomy, any of those things that need to be done with visualization can be done very simply, and our system costs under $5,000. So that's the kicker. Maybe I buried the lead. I don't know.
Maybe you buried the lead.
Yeah.
I love that.
So.
I love that. That's a great story, and I'm very excited about the advancements you're making and really beginning to remove the needle from this part of women's health.
Exactly. So, Ben, I can't say enough about LSI and Scott and Mari. Oh, my goodness. Nobody says enough wonderful things about Mari, right? So they've done great things for us. I was here 2 years ago, before the Big C, and it was wonderful. And we recently decided to go to market on our Series C. We were going to wait a little bit, but we decided to go ahead and go. And I called Scott 2 weeks ago, and I said, Scott, do you have any room? And he goes, absolutely. And he got us in. And so they're great to us. They've been great to Luminelle. I think many of us go to life science conferences, and medtech sometimes gets pushed to the wayside. So there's a special place in our hearts for Scott and his team.